Okay, welcome everybody. My name's Jeff Kay. I'm the Vice President of the university. There's a whole lot of biography here about myself, but since my mother didn't come, I'm just going to skip that for you because you really want to hear from the two of them and not from me. This is a session which, as said before, we're going to repeat twice. So we decided that if we're not good enough the first time, we'll do it again. But hopefully it'll be interesting. We have two incredible scholars here, and we're going to take a deep dive into the situation that we have in the Gaza Strip, Israel, the Middle East, everything, and trying to have an understanding of where we are. And more importantly, and thanks, Sasha, for your words, an understanding of where we need to go, where we need to be. So I'm going to introduce our two guests. First of all, Professor Sarab Abu-Rabia-Queder. She's a Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion at BGU. And she is a sociologist of education and feministic activist with a specialty in gender studies at BGU. Her research focuses on issues of diversity, inequality among minorities in academia and employment. She's the first Bedouin woman in Israel to earn a doctorate and is now leading the way to a greater experience of shared society. She received her PhD from BGU in 2006, although she looks much younger than that. Carried out a postdoctoral fellowship in gender studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and University of Oxford in England. And she would be really upset if I didn't mention the fact that she received an honorary doctorate from the Weizmann Institute last year. Professor Yoni Mendel, Jonathan Mendel, graduated from Cambridge University. Where's Chaim? The right Cambridge, I think he says yesterday, in 2012, and joined BGU in 2018. His main research interests are the position, status, and teaching of Arabic in Israel, Jewish-Arab relations, and the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Yoni teaches a course on Arabic newspapers during the British Mandate, on language policy in the Middle East, and a course in the Gaza Strip, its history, politics, and conflict. And I would say that he is also something quite unusual about him because he supports a soccer team called Norwich City, which is in England. And it's not Manchester United or Arsenal or Chelsea. It's one of the more obscure. No, you know they are. And Messi never played for Norwich City and is not likely to. What I wanted to do we wanted to do is in this session is to try and give a very methodical understanding of where we are and where we need to go, as I said before. We have two incredible experts, probably the leading experts in the state of Israel in their subject matter. Yoni, who is really an expert of Israel and our region and our relationship with our neighbors, particularly the Gaza Strip. And in fact, 2 years ago, one of the first lectures that he gave to us was about Gaza Strip being our blind spot, and apparently he was right. And so we're going to ask Yoni for a very, very clear 5-minute bird's eye view on where we are at the moment. We could take 2 hours to talk about how we got here, but it's probably less important about where we are at the moment. And Sarab, excuse the first names, but we're all friends. And Sarab is an expert not just because of her own personal background, but also because of her academic understanding and knowledge of Israeli society, and particularly the relations within Israeli society between Arab Israelis and Jewish Israelis. We want to try and understand how that all works as well. So we'll start with Yoni, big picture, 5 minutes, analysis of where we stand at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much for being here. This will be my attempt to take the 2 hours into 5 minutes. First, I think maybe this is something that academics don't really like to say usually, but it's hard to predict. The situation is rather unstable, and we are now still in the middle of the things, like the ceasefire agreement. We are not yet sure if it's going to hold and what will be the repercussions of it. But I will say generally that obviously the situation in Gaza is very, very bad, and we have all witnessed the destruction and the situation there. And as it looks, Hamas are also not going to disappear. So it means quite a lot of things about different statements that we heard over the last 2 years. But there is a big shift in let's say, power relations in the Middle East. We could have seen over the last 2 years different things that had happened, not only in the Gaza Strip, but generally in the Middle East. So we're speaking about Lebanon and about Syria and about Iran and about Turkey and about Egypt and about Jordan and about Israel and about Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates and Qatar.
And don't forget Indonesia.
Correct, and Somaliland and Puntland. No, but all in all, to say that there is a new shift, and sometimes we look at it with despair, but sometimes we look at it also as a moment of opportunities. So if I say like a sentence about these different actors, I'll say that definitely Saudi Arabia that got closer to full normalization with Israel before October 7. We all know the statement of Mohammed bin Salman from September 20, 2023, 2 weeks before October 7. Every day that passes, we're getting closer to full normalization with Israel. This stand has changed. So Saudi Arabia are committed to normalization with Israel only if there will be a progress vis-a-vis the Palestinian cause. And this is a new shift, and this is something that we need to take into consideration. With the power relations, and I think Syria is a good example. Syria was backed by Iran, and in a way that this was Iranian hand in the Middle East or in Sham. And following the fall of the Assad regime and the creation of a new regime that is being called Ashara, sometimes you know him by the name Al-Julani, he was backed by Turkey. So I think that if we look at Syria, we can say something about the diminishing power of Iran in the region and the growing power of Turkey in the region. This could also be seen in the last ceasefire agreement, in which Turkey played a vital role. And again, Israel will need to rethink its also relations with Turkey. Over the last 2 years, these relations have deteriorated badly. Israelis will know it very well that we used to fly everywhere in the world using Turkish Airlines and Pegasus. This did not happen for the last 2 years. And I think that Turkey cannot, its role cannot be underestimated. About Egypt and about Jordan, I think that as two countries that have had peaceful relations, or at least a peace agreement with Israel, the first 1978 and the second 1994, they were both active in the creation of the ceasefire agreement, while for Egypt it was very clear from the very beginning that their red line will be no Palestinian refugees or no Palestinian Gazans leaving Gaza and entering Egypt. There were all kind of ideas and statements that were held either from America or from Israel. But now we can look back and say that Egypt's red line were actually kept. The countries that were part of the Abraham Accords, mainly Morocco, United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, all kept their agreements with Israel. But again, over the last 2 years, things have happened and changed in Israel, and Israel is one Middle Eastern country that I didn't speak about. But obviously, I don't need to say to fellow Israelis that the situation in Israel is also rather unstable. There is a huge rift that I think need to be discussed that was caused following the October 7, but was also exist before, and we can speak about an internal Jewish rift. Many people are worried about where is it heading and what's going to happen. We are speaking also about the Mamlachti symbols like the Supreme Court, but also another rift that maybe Sarab will later on speak about more, which is between Jewish citizens of Israel and Arab citizens of Israel that was also badly hit by October 7. So summarizing it all, I feel that over the last 2 years there is a real vortex and change in powers in the Middle East, and each country we could have seen it. And maybe one thing that we need to remember there is that elephant in the room is there to stay. And if Israel would like to think about its future, it will need also to mention and to deal with the Palestinian question.
Thanks, Yoni. So, Sarab, in the country where if there's a Khamsin, it affects Jewish Israelis and Arab Israelis in the same way, and if it rains on both of us. What does October 2025, Lukaig, relations between Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews in Israel at the moment.
It's working, right? Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation and for the opportunity to present some of the issues that have been going on within Israeli society. I would like to zoom out a bit and using my sociological tools that I have earned in my studies to analyze the social divisions that have occurred since October 7th within Israeli society. And when I talk about Israeli society, I refer to the different, old and new social divisions that existed, but due to the war have been relocated on different axes and created a new divisions. So we know the famous division, between the social ethnic divisions between Ashkenazi and Mizrahi, between Arab and Jews, between secular and religious. And due to the war, the current war added new dimensions to these divisions, like I said, repositioned them along new axes. Today, we see, according to my analysis, and of course, according to surveys and some research that has been done on this topic, we have several divisions that I call camps. We have those who used to or support, resisted the war, wanted the war to end, to release the hostages, and to sign an agreement with the Palestinians. It sits, on the backdrop of the judicial reform, those who are against and those who support it. We have those who, another axis of division, those who support recruiting ultra-Orthodox, the army, ultra-Orthodox to the army, and those who oppose it. And the last thing is the intensification of the Jewish-Arab conflicts within the borders of Israel. How do all these axes converge? In a sense, they merge into a struggle between two main camps, or clans, I can say, the liberal camp and the anti-liberal camp. While the anti-liberal camp, in general, this is a very rough division, supported by this government that we all knew, its agenda, we all familiar, we all heard, and read, and what its agenda, what its boundaries that have been crossed, not only after October 7th, but also before that. And as such, this camp actually, supported by the government that tried through the last couple of years to use, or under the guise of fighting terrorism or security, to suggest few laws, suggest few anti-democratic laws that aims to shut everyone who's trying to resist the government's agenda, or the democratic, the anti-democratic laws. The most people that suffered eventually, or at the first time, from this anti-democratic wave were not only, but for most, the Arab citizens of Israel. The Arab citizens of Israel, according to surveys like the Accord Center and the Racism Index, suffered from increased in racist phenomenon in the social media, hunting professionals in hospitals, in the public sphere, well-known people, celebrities, media persons, and so on. And there was also a rise in the alienation and fear and the distance between Arab and Jewish in Israel in all spheres of life, which create a mistrust between the two populations. And this mistrust has its own roots a few years ago, if you remember, in May 2021, the war, I don't remember the name of the Shomrei Chomot, Guardians of the Walls, something like that, where the country was burned, okay? There was a lot of violence between Arab and Jews in Israel, and this fear, it was also, it was the main fear of every organization that I know, also in the academic sphere, that this escalation might repeat itself again inside the borders of Israel, especially inside the academic sphere. I will talk about the role of academia maybe later on, but I will give you only one example about the most disadvantaged or hurt population from the Arab society within Israel, the Bedouin. As you probably know, some of the Bedouin were also kidnapped, were also murdered, were in a cold blood.
And this, including people who were on their way to rescue Jews.
And they were also some people who saved some families and some persons, at the attack, within the attack itself. At the moment of the attack. And despite of that, despite, the Bedouin community that proved its loyalty to humanity, and to the right side, unfortunately, the government, instead of embracing the Bedouin community and recognizing its 3% piece of land that needs to be recognized, intensified by the Ben-Gurion administration, the home demolitions all over. We have to remember that, I don't know if you know, the first kids that were killed by the Hamas attacks were Bedouin from unrecognized villages. I don't know how much you know, but the area where the unrecognized Bedouin villages live is still defined as open space, meaning that there are no human beings living there. There are no shelters in Bedouin unrecognized villages, and it's very, very sad. So there is also another rift that has get bigger between the state institutions, and the Bedouin community. Despite this very, sad aspect, I would like to mention also that at the beginning, of the war, at the beginning immediately in November, December 2023, a Bedouin woman, together with a Jewish woman from the southern part of Israel, initiated an Arab-Jewish emergency center in the Bedouin city Rahat, which gave us a point of hope that, in the mid of all this mess, a point of hope where Bedouin women and Jewish women and men, both population, cooperated, and they used to deliver food and supplies to all the peripheral Jewish and Arab areas in the Negev. And I think this is the point of hope that I see, that we must insist to enlarge this island and make more of it in all spheres of life.
So I think our esteemed president was one of the first people to visit that joint center. But one of the most important first. So we're going to, the third question is going to be related to your academic activity and what's going on in the university. But I want to take another opportunity and say, you both got incredible insights in terms of where we are at the moment. Again, we could talk about how we got there, but this is where we are, and you both understand both from an external, geopolitical and also an internal aspect. If we had a leadership, I mean, we meaning the state of Israel, the Palestinians, all of the countries that were listening, understanding what's going on now, dream with us a second about where we could be in 10 years from now and how we would get there. And you want to start?
It's okay, important to dream. And also I would say that the dream that I maybe will share with you today is not untouchable, but like we can actually make it there. The Middle East does offer a lot of new opportunities currently at the moment, and the thing is whether Israel will be courageous enough to do that. The expanding, the Abraham Accords is something that is very much possible. But all countries involved keep on saying that they will expand relations with Israel to full normalization if Israel is willing to do steps looking at the Palestinian problem and actually dealing with it seriously. So I have a feeling that in 5 years' times and 10 years' times, not only that the current peaceful treaties that Israel have will remain, but they will actually deepen. This is something that is important for you to understand. Israel, for example, had a peace treaty with Egypt since 1978, so we are speaking about almost 50 years of peace treaty. It is impossible to imagine an Egyptian professor coming to give a lecture in an Israeli university. It's not happening. The relations are that they are kept only on a security-oriented level, only on a very diplomatic level, but anything else is considered in Arabic tatbi'a, normalization, full normalization. Israel can actually, if it moves to that direction, it creates current peace treaties into full, real treaties of friendships and support and partnerships and so on and so forth. And current countries with which Israel does not have any relations, it can move on forward. Not to speak about the security situation. I think that we are all here, and we heard Sasha speaking before, and this is shocking stories. And all of us living in Israel, especially working in the south, we are also well aware of it. Family that got hurt, people that were kidnapped, people that were murdered, and so on and so forth. The security situation is not something that can be disregarded or underestimated. But Israel needs to have a long-term thinking. Israel needs to decide what does it do with the fact that every 5 years or every 10 years there is another war or another intifada or another shocking attacks like the one that have happened. We need to accept the situation that between the Jordan River and between the Mediterranean Sea, there are two people. And currently the Jewish people are in minority. There are about 7.4 million Jews and about 7.6, 7.7 million Arabs. I include also the Arab citizens of Israel. The continuation of the current situation in which Israel says, no, we are not going to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority whatsoever, has lasted for 20 years. Almost 20 years there was no negotiation with the Palestinian Authority whatsoever. The fact that in the Palestinian authorities there were no elections whatsoever since the last election in 2006 means that we are going through a process of degeneration and that we need to stop it. There are a lot of opportunities coming up and Israel needs to be able to seize them. I will be more than happy to tell you also what's happening in the Department of Middle Eastern Studies, but we will do it later.
Sarab, Professor, what could be possible in the state of Israel?
Well, call me naive, but I think we need to revive the peace camp. We don't have any other option. And what do I mean, the peace camp? I know the word peace, maybe it's too heavy and too loaded after what we heard from Sasha. But this is the imagine. We must imagine, there's a term that is called political imagination. If we don't imagine ourselves living in a peaceful world, in a secure world for both nations, for both people, so we wouldn't have to be worried about, our kids being kidnapped or killed or whatever. We must go, I know, and we need a lot of efforts to do that. And I think I want to go back to the role of academia, and I'm an academic person, I'm not a politician, I'm an activist, I'm doing whatever I can do in my own piece of space. We need to create a structure, a solid structure of young democratic leadership of students who believe, graduates, who do not only graduate from universities, with skills and with degree, and they know where they want to study, because reality in Israel forced us to think about what other values these graduates are going to live with from the university. And for that, in the last 2 years, I managed successfully, with the help, of the university, with Danny and Jeff and others, to establish a lab for peace, a lab for shared life on campus. And my aim was to promote science for peace. Universities usually, its main role is to promote knowledge, to create knowledge, and to create science. And I'm saying, why won't we use science to promote peace, and use peace to promote science? And it's possible. I have seen other examples of this kind of cooperation in other conflict zones, such as in Ireland and in other places in the world. So why can't we do it in Israel? Why can't we make BGU one of the first university who could lead such a thing? And we have an example. You can see through the brochure that I just happened to bring with me. And yeah.
No
Yeah,
preparation.
I'm doing my work, and you can see them on the desk over there. That we have the BGU Laboratory for Shared Space, which we created. Groups of Arab and Jewish students in the university voluntarily come in to engage in dialogue, to talk together. And one of the things that I was amazed, the amount of students. Unfortunately, every group we must work with. For the case of the dynamic group, we are bounded only to 20 students, but the amount of candidates who wants to participate in these groups is above 120. If I had more money, I would love to open other groups. And I asked myself, what bring students, Arab and Jewish students, in the middle of a war that they're not outside of this conflict. They experience the conflict. They have experienced it on their families, on their bodies, on their soul. Everyone is part of the conflict. To come and to sit, to talk with the other, okay? And one of the things that we saw through surveys and research, we don't only do, we also study it, is that it humanizes the other. For some of the Arab and Jewish students, it was a first time that they sit with each other, talk to each other. And one of the things that I also, a little quote that I brought with me, I prepared this morning. Let me just. The students say why they came. They came because to see other people, not just opinions. What these encounters enabled is to take off the masks, of the labels, of the stereotypes, of the opinions. A Jewish, an Arab, in Israel, the press doesn't show, the real, it presents the Arab image, either as a terrorist or either, in a very, very negative way. And this is the first time when they encounter, they learn from the personal narratives, the human touch, beyond every other labels, and it really humanized the encounter. We need to extend and to enlarge this kind of initiatives. So this will be the ambassadors, not only for BGU, but the ambassadors of peace for the sake of State of Israel.
Thank you, Sarab. To quote a young Canadian Jew, Alanis Morissette, isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that the first person to coin the word peace in a decade, it was Donald Trump, and so it's come back into fashion. Yoni, an opportunity from you to talk about what BGU is doing in the same way as Sarab does to advance the mission that you talk to them. We're going to open up for questions.
I'll be happy to take questions. The Department of Middle Eastern Studies, first I will say I'm the head of the department, and we are the fastest growing Department of Middle Eastern Studies in the country. We had 40 students in the first year of the BA 2 years ago. We had 53 last year, and we are approaching 100 this coming year. And it means that we are doing something that is unusual, unlike other universities. For example, our Arabic program. We teach Arabic differently. We teach Arabic in Arabic, communicational Arabic, bringing Arabic teachers and Jewish students together. We have courses that are dealing with the actual things that people would like to know more about, from the core issues of the conflict to Gaza, through a course that we have about ISIS, but also about the history of the Middle East and the current Middle East. And what I feel is that this experiment, in a way, that we did in the Department of Middle East Studies with the support of the university and support of the faculty, is something that we need to look at and to think then about the university and to think about Israel. BGU is located in a very strategic, important area. It has the Gaza Strip on its west, and it has the West Bank or Judea and Samaria on its east. It has the biggest Arab city in Israel, which is Rahat, on 82,000 people. It stands in the Negev, which makes about 60% of the state of Israel, and its name is Ben-Gurion. And with all of these things, even if we take even the climate questions into account, so it has the same climate like other countries in the Middle East, and the same concerns that maybe countries like Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Morocco might have, we need to be able to play a role that will take the achievements and the things that we are doing currently in the departmental level to a higher level, to that of the university and even to that of the country. Currently, there are no research centers in Israel that deal seriously with the future of Israel in the Middle East and looking at these questions from a non-security, non-military point of view. And I think that we need to have this hub. Israel, and I'm sure that all of you follow the news over the last 2 years or 3 years, have been, in a way, imagining a different world that is not connected to the limitations of power. So we have seen quotes like, Israel is not going to free thousands of Palestinian prisoners in return of Israeli hostages. And we kind of said, no, it has to be done through a deal because it is unlikely that people will be released alive without a deal. Israel said also that it's going to hunt down Hamas people all over the place. And this has also happened in Qatar. And look at the repercussions. This was actually the 21st point of the Trump deal that was taken into 20 because it was said to Israel, no, you cannot do this, and so on and so forth. I think that because of the opportunities that I spoke about at the beginning, we need to have a long-term thinking. It was super clear in the course about Gaza. I taught it for 5 years. We had so many experts coming from different fields in Israel, in France, from the Arab community, from the military. None of them have said that this situation can last. This situation in Gaza. None of them said that this is stable. None of them said that this is status quo. The representative of the Ministry of Defense says in 2021 it is going nowhere. It is going from one explosion to another explosion. But yet, because we leave these kind of topics and discussions to the political arena and to politicians, eventually we end up with no long vision whatsoever about the role of Israel in the Middle East. We are located in the heart of the Middle East. We are surrounded by 400 million Arabic speakers. Only 0.4% of Jewish Israelis can read a book in Arabic. This is a situation that has to change if we want to future and if we want to envision a peaceful future for Israel. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is to push forward a center that will be an academic hub that will be exactly dedicated to these topics and that will be able to change this lack of discussion into something that will be much more fruitful.
So thank you. He doesn't really have a brochure, but he has some great ideas. So Leonora's not being as generous with us as she was with Danny. So we want to open it up for some questions because I can only imagine that your heads are buzzing with thoughts and ideas and questions. Please, Ed. So for any of them, either.
I don't know which of you could take this question easier, but is there a form of Islam? Is there a form of Islam that's compatible with religious tolerance and democracy? And if there is there a way to marginalize the fundamentalists who can't live with that kind of Islam? I see no way for peace unless there is a way to take care of the Ummah issue.
Should I take this question? Do you want to take more? Thank you very much. Thanks, Sarab. It's a very good question. Thank you for this. I think that we need to discuss first Islam, and this will be a 2 hours lectures in 10 seconds, but also to discuss realpolitik. And realpolitik is something that does happen in the Arab world. When Israel had to do the peace treaty with Egypt in 1978, the Islamic movement there opposed it. But there was a fatwa that was achieved, and the decision was to allow Sadat, President Sadat, to go forward and reach a peace agreement with Israel with all of the connotations that Israel has had. If we can envision a political leadership, then we can envision or imagine also a solid solution. I would say that focusing on Islam is interesting and is important, and we shouldn't underestimate it. But the current situation is that we will focus on Islam without dealing at all with the question of political leadership. And there is no political leadership currently in the Palestinian Authority whatsoever. As I said before, there were no negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians for 20 years whatsoever. There were no elections in the Palestinian Authority for 20 years whatsoever. This causes radicalization. This causes the growth of, by the way, of Hamas. This causes a situation in which we cannot envision a change to the situation. And I think that focusing only in Islam will not serve us well. And again, especially that we mentioned also other countries, not less religious, like Saudi Arabia, Hafiz al-Qiblatain, like the protector of the first two Qibla in Islam, not a non-Islamic country, willing to move forward with Israel. The same with United Arab Emirates. It's not a secular Muslim country. And I think that it can be like a theological discussion and whether Islam has different sects and Islam is different. Currently, we're speaking about Islam with no political leadership whatsoever. And I think that we should focus also on the political questions.
Let's take more questions. Sasha, who's the only other person who knows Arabic in the audience, right?
Well, it's working. No, never mind. I have a lot of questions, I really do, and I come from a different point of view because I observed the other side face to face. I will ask one, although I have many. I think that the Arab leadership in Israel is portraying a bad picture for the Arabs community in Israel. When you have leaders that put genocide signs in front of Trump just to make propaganda, there is a reason for that. I don't know if he believes that or not, but doing that means that most of the society that he thinks is voting for him support this kind of narrative that there is a genocide in Gaza. And the fact that there are friends in his party supportive of Hamas and their deeds, and the fact that Palestine need to be liberated is also not a good picture. And talking about the Bedouin community, you know, I lived in Beersheba. I know the South. Beersheba has a lot of problems with the protection thing that is going on with the Bedouin community, and they are using the infrastructure they have in Israel in order to actually leverage and make crime. I'm not saying it's everybody, but I'm saying they're leaders in a sense, and the things you actually experience as an Israeli with this community is sometimes bad. I can say from the kibbutzim, I experienced the Bedouins that are living in the area, and they are so nice. They will always able us to come, and they was like family. They were like family. But unfortunately, for example, I heard from firsthand people who worked in the kibbutzim renovating houses from Gaza, giving intel about what is happening in the kibbutz that was used on October 7. Summing it up, I'm saying that we are facing a very difficult mixture between these two narratives that is going on in the Arab community and the Bedouin community. And I'm asking how we can solve that, because it seems sometimes that they don't want us to be in this land. They just don't want us to be here. And in the end, those party of the Arabic represented in the Knesset getting a lot of votes. It's getting majority of the Arab votes in Israel, and it's not hiding the fact that it's actually countering and wants to achieve, in a sense, the Palestinian struggle. What is your take on that? What do you think? How do you think we can solve that?
First of all, thank you for the question. This is a really important question, and I really understand when it comes from your own experience, which is an individual experience, you know. But as a researcher, I really look at surveys. And one of the surveys that has been done immediately after October 7th proved that most of the Arab population in Israel, including the Bedouin, were resist, you know, the Hamas attack. And I think the loyalty, you know, this loyalty test that the Arab population, the Arab citizens in Israel, that always has to face because of the few radicals here and because of these shows of the Knesset members, you know, in the stage of the Knesset, do not represent the majority of the Arab citizens of Israel. And I think, yes, there is a crime in Bedouin society, but there is also weapon in Arab society. There is a lot of crime and murder, you know, against killing women in Arab society. And I'm asking whose responsibility is that? So there's a history of neglectance from the authorities, from the states, deliberately, I believe, this is my personal perspective, ignoring, the crimes in Bedouin society, not interfering in these cases, and that's create, by the way, this gap, okay, this a space, empty space, where radicalization and killing and all the things that both of us, I'm also residents of Beersheba, experience from this radical, but they're not. This is not, they don't represent the community. Unfortunately, this is what you experience. So I really invite you, to join me, to see other sides of Arab society, of the Bedouin society, and to look at the advantages and the people who initiate to make a better society, to promote the society. I'm disappointed. Yes, okay, I will stop here.
We have time. We have time for more. One more. We have time for one more question. Joel.
I mean, adjacent to these comments, it seems that ultimately what Israel has been yearning for as long as I can remember is simply a partner in peace. And it's easy when you hear the comments how easy it is for people to want to think of groups as homogeneous. I mean, you've got now Fatah has leading the West Bank for 20 years, so that community must think one way. And Hamas has been in Gaza for 20 years. That group must think another way. And I guess in Beijing, there were like 14 different sects of Palestinian groups who were trying to come up with some way to have self-determination. What is a pathway that you think that a legitimate peace-desiring leadership can emerge in Gaza or among the Palestinian community that we can partner with?
Do we take another question? No? Answer? No.
I'm a little bit interested. I think that universities are places where different groups of people can come together and study together.
So I'm a little bit interested in hearing more about both of your programs as opposed to large political views, which I can read in the paper. But I'd really love to hear what your vision of what you want to create in the next few years is.
We have 2 minutes. So quickly respond to Joel. It's hard, and then Sally.
I'll do one minute for both, and then maybe Sarab can try 1 minute for both. I think that we are lacking long-term vision, and we are forgetting that Israel also can be proactive, meaning Israel cannot be only on the reaction, so to speak, stand. Israel needs to decide where it wants to be. Where it wants to be vis-a-vis Gaza, where it wants to be vis-a-vis the West Bank, where it wants to be vis-a-vis the Middle East. It needs to say it. Once it say it, then I think that the reaction also will come. We sit aside and say this about Hamas, and this about Fatah, and this about Hezbollah, and this about this. But at the end of the day, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Lebanese, I'm not Syrian, I'm Israeli. And I want my country to decide, to think about it seriously, where are we heading, and whether this strategy or that strategy or this idea or this idea is actually practical or defensible. About the program and what we are currently doing, so I find that the current things that we are doing in the department are super successful. And I know I'm biased, I'm the head of department, but they are successful in the sense of that there are so many people who are turning. And also, for example, that the Arabic courses that we teach, we had requests from faculty, and we have requests from other students studying engineering, studying computer, to have also Arabic studies and also to learn about these issues, and we are opening these things. And coming up from this success and from this interest and from this historical moment also that we are at and from this crossroad, so I think that the fact that there is no another academic center like the one I described is very much needed. And it will have a special impact if something coming from Ben-Gurion University, that with all due respect to other names of Prime Minister, Ben-Gurion has an important place in which Ben-Gurion University Center for, I don't know, Israeli relations with the Middle East or in the Middle East, have a vision and can influence also the political arena and can also bring experts from outside and from inside. I think that it will have a meaning. It is needed and it is relevant.
Sarab, your question, your response?
I cannot disagree with you. I totally agree with what he said regarding the vision and regarding choosing to living in a place where there are no wars anymore. Okay, we need that. Enough. We don't want another October 7th. And we need not a carriage leadership, okay, who is willing to do the first step without making any excuses. And you have to find the partners, because eventually contracts, reconciliation are done with enemies. Okay, this was the case with all other places that, in conflict zones. Regarding what we do in the university, so like I said, I think BGU should lead, training and educating our students to know each other, because we live in the same zone, we live in the same area. I live in a Jewish neighborhood. All my neighbors are Jewish and Arabs. I have an ultra-Orthodox religious Jew, I have a Mizrahi Jew, and we're okay on the level of the people. But when we think about politicians and about our neighbors, we don't interact. We interact, like Sasha said, from his own experience, we interact in a very negative way. Okay, so we need to create more encounters in a positive way that everyone would feel safe enough. And I just one about resilience. I just been reading lately about the Jung, the Yang and the Yin and Yang psychology about resilience. And one of the main themes about this theory, psychological theory, that in order to heal and to create your own resilience, you have to accept yourself. But after you accept yourself, self-acceptance, the next step is to accept the other. And this is what we need to do.
I want to thank Sarab and Yoni for an incredible enlightening. I just wanted to give a plug that you said the word encounters. So we're with us at the moment Sally Goldesman, who's one of the founders of an organization called Encounters. And the sole purpose of the organization is to expose Israelis to Palestinian culture and life, and it's something that I participated in. She also happens to be Gary's sister-in-law, so that's also good. So thank you, thanks for being with. Thank you very much to both of you. Thank you to all of you.